Summer sunlight shimmered across meadowland, a peaceful field where insects lived busy, buzzing lives. Among the tall stems of lavender and clover, Annie the ant marched in a straight, neat line, her tiny feet tapping like a soft drumbeat on the warm soil. Annie was small, but she carried a giant determination inside her, much bigger than the crumbs she hauled back to the anthill each day. She believed in working hard, preparing early, and taking good care of her ant family. Just above her, resting lazily on a smooth green leaf, lounged Gizmo the Grasshopper. Gizmo loved many things: sunshine, music, dancing, adventures, but working was not one of them. His favorite place was anywhere comfortable, and his favorite time was any time except work o'clock. "Hey, Annie," Gizmo called down, strumming his leaf guitar. "Why don't you take a break? It's a perfect day to relax. Listen to this new song I made." Annie looked up, wiped a tiny drop of sweat from her head, and smiled politely. "It is a beautiful day, Gizmo. But winter will come before we know it. I need to store food while I can." "Oh, winter, schminter," Gizmo laughed, hopping in a circle. "It's months away. Look at all this sunshine. There'll always be time later." But Annie shook her head. Time later is never as long as it seems. With that, she continued marching toward the anthill, carrying a sunflower seed nearly twice her size. Gizmo shrugged, strummed his leaf guitar again, and returned to enjoying the summer breeze. Every morning, Annie rose with the sun, stretching her tiny antennae and preparing for another productive day. She organized food squads, checked storage rooms, and planned routes for collecting seeds and crumbs. Gizmo, on the other hand, woke up whenever he felt like it. Some days he napped until lunchtime. Other days he hopped around Meadowland, exploring fun places like the Splashy Puddle, the Windy Hill, or the Dandelion Forest, where the soft white fluff floated like snow. He'd wave as Annie marched by. "Come play, Annie. Look, the dandelions are dancing. Another time." "Gizmo," she said kindly, "I'm carrying grain to the anthill. You're missing all the fun, and you're missing all the work." She replied with a wink. But Gizmo never worried. Grasshoppers don't store food, he told himself. Nature will take care of me. It always does. He played music for butterflies. He taught ladybugs how to hop tiny jumps. He even held afternoon concerts for beetles and bees, who all clapped politely at the end. Everyone liked Gizmo. He was cheerful, funny, and full of imagination. But everyone also knew one more thing. Gizmo didn't prepare for anything, not even lunchtime. One late autumn afternoon, the wind blew colder than usual. Golden leaves fluttered down like bits of warm sunshine saying goodbye. Birds gathered high in the sky, planning their trip to warmer places. Annie felt the air grow crisp. Winter is almost here, she told her ant friends. Let's finish strong. The ants worked together wonderfully, rolling seeds, carrying crumbs, stacking tiny grain piles. Their anthill was beginning to look like a miniature palace of food. Gizmo, meanwhile, was lying on his favorite leaf, shivering slightly. What's this chilly breeze doing here so soon? He wondered aloud, hugging his elbows. He tried strumming his leaf guitar, but the notes came out weak and quivery. He spotted Annie below, marching as always. "Hey, Annie," he called. "Are you sure you need that much food? I mean, winter won't be so bad, right?" Annie looked up at him with gentle concern. "It might be long. We never know. That's why we prepare," Gizmo swallowed. "Well, I guess I should gather a little too, maybe tomorrow." But tomorrow came with frost, and Gizmo had gathered nothing. One morning, Meadowland woke under a blanket of silver. Frost coated every leaf, every twig, every blade of grass. The warm breeze of summer had vanished completely. Annie and the ants stayed cozy in their anthill, snuggled among stored food. But Gizmo's leaf home had turned stiff and icy. His favorite branch was too slippery to sit on. His music sounded brittle, like frozen twigs snapping. He hopped slowly across the ground, shivering and hungry. Maybe I should have worked a little," he murmured, pressing his chilly legs together. He tried finding something to eat, but winter had hidden everything. No crumbs, no seeds, not even a drop of sweet nectar, for the first time in forever. Gizmo felt worried. He hopped toward the ants' anthill, his stomach growling loudly. Deep inside the anthill, warm and well-fed, Annie heard a small tapping sound. Teek, teek, teek. Who could that be? She wondered. When she peeked outside, she found Gizmo shivering, weak, and looking terribly sorry. "Annie," he said quietly, I didn't work. I played all summer, and now I have no food and nowhere warm to stay. Can I please come inside?" Annie's heart softened instantly. She didn't say, "I told you so," even though she had warned him many times. That wasn't the kind of friend she wanted to be. Instead, she nodded gently. "Come in. Gizmo, we'll help you." The ants welcomed him with warm crumbs and a soft leaf blanket. Gizmo sighed with grateful relief. "You ants are amazing," he said between bites. "I should have listened. I really should have." Annie smiled. "There's a time for playing and a time for preparing. Both are important. You just forgot the second part." Gizmo hung his head. "I'll never make that mistake again." Days passed. Gizmo stayed with the ants throughout the long winter. He helped them in little ways, keeping watch, sweeping tunnels, and cheering up ant children with gentle songs played softly on a tiny stick harp. He learned how much effort went into keeping everyone fed. He learned that hard work wasn't just tiring, it could also be fun when done with friends. Most importantly, he learned that preparing for the future made a world of difference. Sometimes he still felt embarrassed, remembering how carefree he'd been. But Annie always reminded him, learning is never something to be ashamed of. It means you're growing. At last, after many frosty nights, one morning arrived with a warm glow. Snowmelt dripped softly from branches. Tiny green shoots poked through the soil. Spring glorious, colorful spring was back. Gizmo leaped outside with joy. Wahoo! Sunshine again. But this time, instead of hopping off to nap, he turned to Annie first. "So, what's our plan for today?" Annie blinked. Our plan? Yes, I want to help gather food, and rebuild the tunnels, and fix the storage rooms. I want to do it all, Annie grinned. Well, then, let's start by collecting dandelion seeds. Together they worked side by side, Danny carrying organized piles, Gizmo hopping high to snip seeds from tall stalks. The other insects watched in surprise. Is that Gizmo working? A butterfly whispered. Wow, said a beetle, and he looks happy. Happy indeed, Gizmo hummed. While he worked, inventing songs about teamwork and preparing, turning even chores into music. By the time summer returned, Meadowland had something special planned, the annual Insect Summer Festival. Every creature, big and small, gathered in the heart of the meadow for dancing, storytelling, and tasty treats. This year, Gizmo had a surprise for Annie. He pulled her onto a small stage made of polished stones. I wrote a song, he said, and it's dedicated to you. He began strumming a beautiful melody, gentle, warm, filled with gratitude. The lyrics told the story of a hard-working ant and a fun-loving grasshopper, and how both could learn from each other. The meadow applauded wildly. Annie wiped a tiny tear from her eye. That was beautiful, Gizmo. He smiled. So was the lesson you taught me? Hard work wins, especially when you help a friend along the way. From that summer onward, Gizmo became known as the hard-working hopper. He still played music better than ever, actually, but he also helped gather food, build shelters, and prepare for the colder months. He never forgot the winter he almost didn't survive. And Annie? She learned something too. Gizmo showed her that joy, creativity, and play were important. That life wasn't only about storing seeds, it was also about singing songs, discovering new places, and sharing laughter. The two friends balanced each other perfectly. Annie reminded Gizmo to plan and prepare. Gizmo reminded Annie to relax and enjoy the moment. Together, they made Meadowland a happier, more prepared place. Moral of the story: hard work wins, but life is best when you balance effort with joy, and when friends help each other grow.